Hello everyone, and welcome to my very quick demo slash tutorial on Pussywillow. Now, I said I would do this a little bit a while ago, and it's taken me a little bit to get to it, so I know some of you have probably found some other Pussywillow options, which is great. There's a lot out there. But the reason I'm going to still bother to show you this one is because, first of all, there's the twisted method, which I totally get and I think is pretty. Just not my personal aesthetic. I kind of like this sort of crossover loop method. And the reason why I kind of like showing this one is because it's such a useful thing to have around. Because it's not just for Pussywillow. You can make buds of any kind, berries. I'm going to use it. In fact, I used it for these small ones, and I don't have that many things at home right now, like arrangements, but I have this weird little one I made with like ones from my island of misfit toys. And you can see I'm using the same method here with super small beads that are, use my forceps as a pointer, super small. These are 2 inside loop ones, and that's the smallest you can make. And then going to 4 ones, and so they're little berry stalks in red. So you can do whatever you want. They're just handy to have around. And whenever I make them, I always make a bunch of extras because sometimes, you just need some filler there. And in fact, and pretty filler. And so I'm making today, the ones I'm going to make are ones like these with these matte translucent beads. You can make them in they look great in anything. Opaques, color lined, of course, I do a lot of glossy finish. But I don't know if some of you watched the mum video a few months ago, and we made this one together with the wide petal mum, and I was kind of like, oh my God, I made a big bright, I hope it's showing up in here, a big bright pink one. So now it's not even close to being finished. So I put it into this kind of cool vintage vase, and with this little amaranth thing here going on, which actually I just kind of started making it. I just had so much fun making it. I didn't even know what I was going to call it. I just love this bead, which is in fact what I'm going to be making the hull out of, I realized. And then I did, the old standby of the silver dollar eucalyptus. So just whipped a few of those in there. And then I was like, I kind of want to give it, I'm going to add leaves down here. But then I was like, I'm going to give it a little more height. I'm going to give it some more height thing and something that goes with it. So we're going to put some Pussywillow up in here somehow. I'll post pictures of it once it's done. But that's why I'm doing these Pussywillows in this sort of configuration right now. I've done many times in the more shiny beads. So anyhow, the other thing is, so that's what we're going to do. And so this is the way I like to make them. And again, this is such a great little, it comes in so handy, these little just round things, just for the heck of it. Buds, they can be teeny weeny little buds, berries, puffs for Pussywillow, different colors, all different things. So it's a great thing to have handy. And, you just always just make extra and keep them, in a little bin somewhere. In fact, when I was making this one, I made a lot of extra. I made this many extra, and I kind of wrapped them up, and so I have my different sizes, and I use some in my hulls here, and so they're ready to go at any time if I want to make other ones. And I love this color so much, which we'll talk about in a second, that I actually made berries out of those because there were so many strung up and I didn't need any more hulls. And so these are actually the berry ones, not the hulls, and I'll string those up separately, and that will be a great little filler thing, Filler sounds bad because filler's important, and it has to be pretty filler. Why bother? Right? Come on now. So we're going to make this one today. And again, so there's going to be, we're going to talk about how you make I'm going to call them buds. They're not buds. They're the actual, I guess, the flower. They're full grown, but, so we'll call them the buds, the white ones, just for lack of a better word that I know right now, the puffs. And then I call them in my notebook the sheath, but I keep calling them hulls now, that I add further down to kind of give them sort of more of an interest going down here. One time I tried, I did like a lighter, like a khaki green, and then went darker on the hulls, and it kind of looked a little too multicolor. But that being said, the arrangement that was in, that I ended up sticking in, sold before I even was able to take photographs of it. So I guess somebody liked it, but I thought it looked a little too rainbow bright, even though it wasn't bright at all. But my point is, you could try that. You can try different color sheath colors along the way too. Maybe I'll try that again, but just with different colors. So this is what I'm going to use for this one. You can use whatever heck you want to, but I always like to introduce my beads. they deserve an introduction. If you don't love your beads, then you're in the wrong line of whatever this is for you. Work, hobby, whatever. So, because for me, it's about the beads. They make me happy. This is absolutely in fact, there was one Facebook group, the Seed Bead Facebook group. To get on there, they asked you what's your favorite seed bead. I didn't even pause a second. What I said was Toho 147F. Boom. Easy answer. That was my favorite bead. It's a lovely bead. It's more commonly called, if you look for it, Ivory Ceylon. Translucent or transparent Ivory Ceylon. Light ivory. So, but 147F, it's not the easiest bead to find, so if you find it, get some. Because also, if you want to ever paint it, it takes the paint really nicely. But I just love the way it looks, period. It looks very kind of almost pinkish, almost, well, not pinkish here, it looks kind of like apricot-y. It's more white. You can see that here. And in fact, I have this old flower that's been sitting around for a couple of years now. This old orchid. And this, you can see it here. That's this bead right here. It's a bit mangled. It's been around. I actually made the whole orchid, and then I didn't need this actual flower. So anyhow, so this is that color, and you can see that it's a lot. I mean, it's not white, but it's whiter than it looks in this bag. But again, a very handy bead. It's a beautiful soft. It picks up the light so well. It's so like glows. Anyhow, can you tell I like it? I like it. Like I said, when they asked, what's your favorite bead? Which I think was a trick question to make sure you really wanted to be in their group, which I understand. Not even a half second passed before I said 147F, good old light ivory Ceylon. So I'm going to use that one for the bud. And then for the inside one, I don't know where I put it. This isn't quite the one. This is technically, it's the same name, but it actually, they come out so different. It's the what is this? Transparent Rainbow Frosted Smoky Topaz. Now this one, you can see, these are incredibly variable. So I'll buy them from different vendors, and even though they're all say Toho or whatever, they can be more purple or more brown. So it's kind of handy. And Miyuki has a version of it too. Actually, I just got in the mail, and it's all sealed up, so I'm not gonna. Well, I got it with these other ones. Anyway, so Miyuki has a version that is, they actually call it light brown. It's super pretty. I would have gotten more if I had known it was, I really like that. So the one I used was kind of in between, and it's still called the dark, and I just have no idea where I put it. It's called Smoky Topaz Rainbow Frosted Transparent, and 177F, and I think this is the Toho one, based on the numbering. That sounds like a Toho number, 177F. Anyhow, so it's a pretty one. This is the more purple version of it, but you can get a few other places, and they're fun. I'm trying to look and see if I can find the one to show you a better example, but you get the gist. Okay, so anyhow, that's for the hulls. And so let's now go back to my handy dandy notebook. Let's see what my notebook says here. So this was, I wrote down a long time ago, as you can see from where it is in the notebook. It's pretty much smack dab in the middle, actually. So here's what we're going to do today. We are going to make this one. And so there's 2 sizes of unsheathed beads. There's these guys here. And then 3 sizes of sheathed beads. So I did 2 each of those, and then I did 3 of the first smallest size of the sheathed one, because it's a nice, I like that size, and then 2 each of the bigger ones, and then we're going to talk about how to make the hulls. Okay, so here goes. Let's do this thing. Like I said, the other thing is, it's not even just about the Pussywillow, it's about getting these little balls and getting practice with those, because they're so handy to make little buds, and just so much fun. You can clump them closer together. You can do, whatever you want to do. They can be so pretty. They're just a really pretty accent. I use them quite a bit. Don't have any arrangements here right now, but maybe I'll post some photos of just the totally different colors and times and places I've used them. Like gold champagne ones and colored ones, and all just kinds of fun with them. So we're gonna have some fun with them. So let's talk about the first size. Now, the first size, by the way, since we're doing light and dark things, I was looking for like an in-between color, and believe it or not, this was the most mellow for lack of a better word, in between color fabric I could find. And I have a lot of fabric because I made a lot of masks. And so anyhow, and I realized when I'm looking at it now, it's super high contrast on the video. So we'll see how because it's actually much more pastel in person. Okay, it's not pastel, but it's more muted in person. So I'm looking at it on my camera right now, and holy cannoli, that looks really bright. Interesting. And by the way, also I've been painting a ton of flowers recently, so don't be alarmed by random bits of things on my hands, because that's just what they are. It's just paint. Now, I'm also going to be using my favorite wire, the pearl silver artistic wire, and we're going to be doing these in 26 gauge, and let's go. I love the pearl silver wire. You probably heard me talk about it because it has sort of almost like a satin finish to it, and it's easier to hold because there is a finish on it. And also, if you do ever want to paint your beads, it does help out a bit because it picks up the color nicely. It doesn't rub off as easily. Okay, now I've actually already made the first few, so let me get these started. So I hope I have enough still strung on here. Okay. So we don't need a knot on the end. I don't want to waste my wire because actually this pearl silver is very hard to find. Now I can't find it anywhere. It wasn't hard to find. It's just out of stock where I normally get it, and I can't find it anywhere else. So I'm getting a little worried because I pretty much use it for everything. I've been going through reels and reels of it because I've been going hydrangea crazy. More on that later. So I've been doing a lot of twisting loops. So we're going to do what's called for the first two sizes double crossover loop. Again, super handy. You could do even teensy weensy ones to make them look like berries. They're so handy. So but I'm going to say, for this, I'm going to do a 6 bead. It's going to be my smallest one. And now I'm going to want to do it with even numbers. The reason I do it with even numbers, it's kind of the opposite. If you watched my Spider-Man video where I said you wanted a bead at the end of the loop to kind of keep it so you're always seeing color. Here we want a bare wire at the top because we're going to lay the next crossover loop on top of that. So we want a little divot. So you always want to have an even number in the middle there. So in about 3 inches off the end or so, doesn't really matter. You don't need that much, but I need to have at least 3 inches to hold it. If you can do it with less, you can do it with 2 inches. You can save your wire, up to you. So now we're going to fold it like right at the middle so that it's 3, and I kind of fold it, kind of push up with my index finger, and then push my 2 thumbs together at the same time. I'm looking much more fumbly than I do in real life because I'm trying to show it to you. So I'm pushing it together so they're flat together, and I'm turning it. I'm holding it with my left hand, right? And I'm bringing the bottom wire on top. Now, if your loop looks a little wonky right now, that's okay, because once you get that tight again, you're going to get that little divot up top, right? So we're going to see how tight I'm holding it with this. So then I'm going to go 180, and then kind of like a half spin, like a 90 spin. And you go, why not 180? Because I'm going to want this wire to go straight up in the middle over. And see how now I have a naturally occurring divot there. So I have a little place for the wire to rest. Now we want that because we don't want the top loop slipping off the bottom loop. You know, we want it to kind of retain its shape. So you can pull that one down straight. Okay, and so we're going to get a little more beads on here, and then push this up against here. And then we're going to pull it around. Remember, we're going to squeeze it right up there. This is 26 gauge wire, and you know I'm about to say what I always say. You know who's the boss? You're the boss. Now, I've been killing myself with this 24 gauge on these hydrangeas and twisting, so I'm starting to feel like, yeah, I'm not as much of a boss as I thought I was. But that being said, that's not true. They're working. But with 26 gauge, you are always the boss. You are always the boss of 26 gauge. So I'm going to pull it around, and I'm going to make it so that it just makes a nice tight loop up there. We want it to be tight. So if anything you cut off, you don't want any like looseness here. If anything, you cut it off short. And that's okay, because when you twist it, that'll fill in the gap. But you want to cut it off short. And so now see that rests perfectly in that divot, so now it's tight. And you see how tight it is on here? I'm holding it real tight. I'm going to twist. And now I'm just going to, once you get a couple of twists with it tight, it doesn't matter how you hold it anymore. But again, you want to twist it and have it be a ropey twist. You know, you don't want it, so about 1/4 of an inch down, that's fine. You want it to be a ropey twist. You want them to intertwine. You don't want to wrap one wire around the other because then it'll slip and it'll make it loose. So you want to make sure you really get that. You really get it like a ropey twist on it, a braided twist. Because that holds it tight. And now you have this perfect, cute little berry. And now imagine if that were red, you know, it would look cute if it were any color. Like I said, I did some in champagne gold once. I think it looked pretty cool in what I put it in. So even numbers on the inside, and then who cares on the outside, you just fit your beads around it. So, and then we're going to cut that off. And you cut it a little bit shorter because you really don't need that much wire on there. I just put 3 inches because, again, I need to have something to hold on to. So that's my smallest size. So we got that one right there. Our next size then is going to be an 8 bead inner loop. Again, you can, the cool thing about this is, you know, you just do even sizes. You could go down if you want smaller ones, up, but just always keep even numbers. Now about 3 inches. And again, we're going to bend like right about where the middle would be, and then fold your 2 thumbs together, and then twist your hands around, and then you're putting the bottom, this bottom one, you're putting on top. If you want to wrap it that way, you can wrap it the other way if your hands are more natural. And so you're trying to get them like that. So again, I'm having it like this, and then 180, and then like a 90. And I've been doing so many hydrangeas, like you can see that I have like divots in my thumbnail. Isn't that hilarious? It actually makes it really easy, but that's from doing so many crossover loops, so many continuous loops actually for the hydrangeas. I've never made hydrangeas before, and I just went kind of crazy with them because I was painting them. I'm pretty stoked on them though. Anyhow, so now I have natural little placeholders, which would be kind of weird, but I kind of take it as a point of pride. Like when I had to make a bunch of poppies once, and I made so many of the fringe in the middle, and I would always spin them like this, like on this finger, and like spin them on that to make the fringe to start it with, that I am not even kidding you. Which I feel like I did take a picture. I should post it. It was hilarious. I got a little callus the exact size of an 11 bead right there. Like literally the exact size. Like a little, I showed my husband, I was laughing. I felt like a guitar player who finally got their like, you know, calluses after, you know, playing so long. You feel like, oh, I'm kind of tough now. A tough beater. I don't even want to go there with that one. Is that an oxymoron? I don't know. A lot of us are pretty tough though, right? This is not the easiest thing to do on the planet. So yeah, that went away because I haven't made poppies in a while. I kind of wish I hadn't. It was really cool. I mean, it didn't look weird. No one would even notice it. It was so small, but it was right there, a little teeny callus, exactly the size of little round, exactly the size of an 11 bead. Yeah, I made a lot of fringe for those. Anyway, so now bring this around, and again, you're the boss. I know I'm not saying it because it's a catchphrase. I'm saying it because it's true. You are the boss. So shape it, make it a nice tight little bud there. And again, you want to underestimate. If it feels like, if I do this one, that's borderline, like it might be too loose. If it feels, but once I twist, I'll tighten up. If it looks like there's any gappage here, you don't want your thing to dismantle, so you want it to be tight. If anything, you underestimate, and then you just start twisting like a little knob here. And just make sure, again, that you're rope twisting, because sometimes it might feel like you are. And if you're not, then you have to hold it a different way. Sometimes pinching it this way and having a lighter touch can make it rope better. And it'd be it's not as tight of a rope, but you don't need that as much. You only need 1/4 of an inch. I just kept going to show you. Now, so that's the second size of the double crossover that we're going to use there. And, so again, just keep your little wires kind of straightened down so they're ready to go. Okay, now the other thing you might have learned, I'm sure if you probably figured this out, why did I put my clippers way up there? My snippers. So is that with French beading, like with basic frame mostly, or, you know, continuous, anything, well, that has some structure to it, like these double crossover loops. If you want to get bigger, there's 2 ways to get bigger, right? Think of a basic frame at first. You can either add beads onto the middle stem and keep the same number of rows, or you can keep the same number of beads and add more rows. Both of those will grow it. Or, of course, you could do both, and then it'll grow in 2 dimensions, basically. So the same thing. So that's one thing to always remember. If you need bigger or smaller, there's 2 ways to take away, right? You take away rows, or you take away numbers from the center wire. Well, the same thing here. I want to go up in a size, but I want it to be a small jump. I want it to grade up, right? I'm trying to grade up in size. I don't want anything crazy happening. So I'm going from 6 center, 8 center, and now I'm going to do 8 center again, but I'm going to do a triple. So it's like me adding an extra row if it were a basic frame. I mean, it's not, but you get that what I'm saying, right? So I'm adding more girth to it, you know, which also does push out a little bit on height also. So we're going, now the triple crossover loops take a little more subtle the holding. Now you can start off just the same way, right? So you get your 8 beads, 3 inches or so on the end, fold it over, push your thumbs together to kind of keep them as straight next to each other as possible. You want them to just look like 2 columns. And again, tight here. And then I'm going to do 1 and basically a half turn because I want the reason I do a half turn is because I want this wire going straight out from the middle, not from the side, because I'm going to cross it over. Now, if you really want your buds to stay together, now this is going to take some practice, and it's not the end of the world if you don't do it. It's not, the reason why it's a little bit trickier, just a little, and it's not the end of the world if you don't get it done right. See how right now that this bead right here is about even with this one here with the top of the, because I want a little bit of bare wire because I want to have a divot for that final top, for that final loop to set in so it doesn't squish around later on and pop off. So right now you can see that. See, it's exposed up top and it's just kind of to the side like this. That's a little harder to do. You might want to hold it with both hands. And so you get it like this. And so I can see that right there because now that's going to give me a natural furrow for this top, the very top one to lock onto. So I'm going to do the same thing, twist all the way around and then almost go to a full 180 because I'm going to pull over this side and now I'm going to wrap this through and I'm going to put it right over that divot area and we want it in the center. We want it tight. All right. So use, again, tension. It's all about this tension. See how I'm pushing? See how my thumb is really white here? My thumb and my forefinger. And then right down here, I'm holding this and I'm pulling this down. I'm getting some tension on it. Right, I'm pushing. So right now these beads are really tight onto each other. So I'm going to pull it down because again I want these to stay. I don't want them to pop off. And I'm going to test it. Now, you know it's through the middle when because it's triple. So you have 2 sides here and 2, sorry, my wrist doesn't turn over, and 2 showing here. That's when you know it's going right through the middle. Now, this one's borderline, is that too long? I don't know. It looks pretty locked in there, so I'm okay. But again, you don't want to make sure that there's no like gappage because you're trying to keep it all locked in this tight bud. And now just twist it around a few times when it's still tight. But once you get it a few times twisted, then you can relax your hands and just bring it down and just twist it, getting another 1/4 inch or so off the top there. Let's do another one. Pop you off. There you go. So that would be our next size up. So that's our first one that will be sheathed. Sheathed? That's a hard word to say. With a hole. So the next one up, I'm going to do a 10 inner one with a triple crossover. So I'm going to dump out 10. And again, I'm going to, you know, whatever you have on the end, as much as you need to grip. I'm going to bend it up so that there's 5 and 5 going right down the middle like that. Push my 2 thumbs together. But for me, it's easier to put the bottom one, this one, top, because I'm going to turn it, I'm going to turn this side, the berry, the bud, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to turn it towards me that way, right? So, and that's just what grip works for me. You choose what grip works for you. This isn't, okay. And now, again, we're using the wire on itself. We've been doing it like we always do. You know, we're pushing this together. See how it's staying right now? It's staying because I'm holding it in such a way that it's kind of locking on itself. And it's just crossed right now. And if I move anything, it's going to pop right apart. So now, turning towards myself, 1, 2, like that. And then I'm going to do my second loop. Again, pushing up. Now you also want to make sure that, you know, you want to get it really flush on there. If it doesn't get flush on there because the bead's in there, then do the wire first and then put the beads down. Okay, so you want to get a good grip again. I'm pulling, pushing, see, white, white. And right here, I can see that this bead right here, now if I cut that off, you can see that it's even with the top one. So I'm going to I'm going to squish out with my lovely, this is why I got this little furrow here, little furrow. I'm going to squish out a little, you can do it without the furrow. And And I'm going to get a little bare wire right on top. Now that's a little trickier. That might take a little practice. And I'll show you the last one we'll do without worrying about it. It's possible to do it. It's just, it actually makes it harder to do the last loop if you don't do that little. So you can see this little bare area now. You can see the little plus sign where they both have bare wire on top. So I'm going to twist and then twist almost around. So I'm going past the bigger one, the second loop past that one and right over here. Okay, so I'm bringing up my third loop again. So I'm going to squish it, keeping that straight, squishing it right up on there. Because again, 26 gauge wire, you are always the boss. So now I'm going to pull this down and it covers up that plus sign up top and it sits right in there. Sits right in there and all nice and polite. It's doing its business. Now, the reason again is because now it won't slide off later on. You know, it's going to be much more locked in there. And so again, you want to kind of err on the side of being less, like looser. I mean, not looser, like there's less beads. Like you look like you're in a bare wire because you're going to tighten it. And when you do the twist, it will actually take care of that. And you know, if you've seen my videos, I do not like bare wire showing. So if I'm saying it's okay to have a little bare wire on the bottom, that'll take care of it. It will. See, that wire will patch it up. Otherwise, there's a gap up here, and that's worse in terms of keeping the shape. Okay, so spin down anything past 1/4 inch. And now we see we have this nice, tight little bud here. Now, I'm going to show you on one of this size again that before I do the next size. Well, actually, let's just do the next size, and then I'll talk about it. So that's the 10. So now we have a 6 bead inner one double, 8 bead inner one double, 8 bead inner loop triple, 10 bead inner loop triple, and now we're going to do a 12 bead. Again, you can keep going up. Just keep your, keep your inside loop with even beads and you're good to go. So let's do, oh, here we go. Sorry, I'm holding it back here like I'm hiding it. So let's do a 12 bead, and that will be the last one for this. And I actually have made ones with 14 beads, but they start to get really kind of long and kind of pointier, so they don't have kind of a more rounded shape. There's fixes for that, but we'll get on that later. But anyhow, so 12 bead is kind of my max size. So then you got to figure out where your 12th, where your 6 bead fold would be. So fold it down right there, and then squish your thumbs together, or however you want to do it. And then again, I load it onto my thumb, holding it there, so I get that 2 like parallel lines of beads. And then I'm going to do 1, and then almost just like a half there. Okay. And you can even prep your wire to be flush on it by pulling this working wire up, pulling it up, and that will actually prep it to be flush. Because look, now the beads just go straight down in there, no problem. And I can see very clearly that this one would be the one that would be level with it. So I'm going to kind of hold it, and this does take, that's a little tricky. It's even when I've done it a bunch of times, and it's still not always comfortable, because keeping the bare wire there on top and then having, and of course when you're trying to show it, it's even harder. So see that bare wire at top. So then you kind of hold it with your fingers, and again, you want to err on the side of slightly shorter if it comes down to it. And you see that plus mark up top, that plus sign. And that is 1, and then almost 2, but not quite. Okay, so now we're going to pull up our last one here and put this around, pull it around, keep this wire as straight down as you can. Okay, and keep this tight by keeping this pushing, always pushing up this way, pushing the beads back onto itself. Now, definitely want to choose the one that's slightly shorter. Pull it right up there, and then I'm twisting, holding, twisting, holding. And I'm actually twisting the wire by getting the wire twisted by twisting the bud. Okay, so that would be your last size for what we're doing today. Now I'll show you what happens. So there's your 5 sizes. Now I'll show you what happens if you don't do that like plus sign thing. It's not the end of the world. It really isn't, but you should try to practice it. Because it really does hold the buds in place longer. And so let's do another 10 one. I'm going to do a 10 triple, but I'm not going to pay attention to that second one being that, worrying about it having the bare wire on top. Now, you always want the bare wire up top for the first one, because that's easy enough to do. You just fold it in half. Just fold it in half. There it is. And even if it looks a little wonky at first, you fold it in half, spin it 180, and then 90. just so that you're right. So that this is going to go right up the middle. And sometimes you want to pinch those back together. And now I'm going to just do a crossover one. Now I'm just going to I'm not even going to care about that plus sign. I'm just doing a double crossover, no big whoop. Making sure there's no bare moments and pinching as I go to keep it tight with that. Okay, and then this would be where I'd end it. Kind of the parallel bead, and then I go one and over. Okay, so now what I would want to do, I feel like I need something even pointier. Let's see. I've got some stem wire. So now what I want to do is I would bring this up here and then pull it over the top and then down here, right? Because I want to have 2 on each side of it, right? So it looks fine. It's just, as long as you keep it tight and push it into that one side and then make sure you're going right to the other side. Now it looks fine. It's just hard to get it, make sure that it's really, that's why you really want to pinch it if you don't do that, to make sure that it's really staying locked in. And then, so it will be fine. Like, it doesn't look any different. The problem is it can slip off. Like, I can already see it's a little bit slipping off. Like, it can slip to the side a little bit. But that's why if you just careful, you know, pinch them together so that they kind of lock on itself, then you're good to go on that. So it's not the end of the world if you don't do that one, but try. Just give it a try, because it will make it, again, so that it's a little more stable. I mean, this is pretty good. As long as you're tight with it and you keep going, then awesome. Now, let's see. Let's clip you off. So we end up doing a few of those, right? So that's good. So now we can do the rest fast. So then I made a bunch, you know, and basically for each stalk I used 2, 2, 3. Oh, this one's confusing because it's under there. Okay. I was like, I don't have 6 sizes. So I did 2, 2, 3, 2, 2. You can do whatever combo you want to. So the next thing we're going to talk about then is the hulls. Now, the hulls are slightly tricky. They're actually really simple in theory. So again, 26 gauge. I'm using, I don't know, this craft wire brand, which it's hard to find around. I always like it when I find it though. But I don't always find it. I end up using artistic wire or para wire more. But when I find it, I always really like its consistency. It's like it's softness. Anyhow, so what we're going to do with this one then, I actually tried to count for you guys. So we're going to make 3 different size hulls, or sheaths, whatever you want to call them, these guys here. And so I made them in, I actually made 4 sizes, but then I realized that the super small one was too small. Didn't like it. Let me see, in fact, is that the small ones? Interesting. How many sheath sizes did I make? One of these must be a berry. No, it's... Oh, yeah, those are berries. I was going to say, I didn't make that many sheath sizes. Okay. Absent-minded professor in the house. Okay. So I actually made 4 sheath sizes, but then I realized I didn't like the one size was just too small. But then again, you can try it if you don't like it. So the super small one, I scaled up later. So where is my super baby one? That's you here, right? 6, yeah. That's this one. See, they look so similar, you almost can't tell. Boom. Okay. So these are what we're talking about, right? We're going to make these little cupped things. And so, and that's literally what they are. They're like little cups. And so I'm going to make one and make the different sizes. Now, I did some bead counts on these, but this is, again, not, you know, it depends on the beads, the consistency of your beads. But, I mean, the inner loop is the same. So for the first one, we started with, because I did odd numbers, so we started with 7. Did I do 7? I must have done 5 on that one. Let me look. Let's look real fast. I was like, no, that should be a 5. No, that's a 7. Inner loop. Let's see. So very... Oh, I see what these... That was my experiment. Oh, okay. I should probably edit this out, but I don't have really time to do that. Okay. I see what I did. Okay, there we go. So we have 7 and we have 5. There we go. So we start with the 5. we'll talk about the experiment later. It's an option. That makes it go a little bit faster, but I don't think it looks as cool. Okay, I'm always trying to figure out if there's easier ways. So I always tend to do a harder way. Okay, so the smallest one I did is a 5 bead inner loop. So what we're doing here is continuous loops that are, there's no crossover. But the trick is you want to cup them. So you don't want them to be flat discs like you might have done before if you're doing like, say, cherry blossoms or something like that. So with the 5 one, what did I do? Where's my 5s? Well, we'll just make it up, won't we now? Can I even read that far away? Interesting. Oh, there it is. 5, 11, 16. Okay, so I did 5, 11, 16. So let's figure out what the heck that means. Yeah, it's trying to make this one go fast. And in one take, imagine that. Again, not working from a script here, so be a little bit patient. Or even, technically speaking, a pattern. So, odd ones here. We want odd ones here. Doesn't have to be, I just think it looks better. So for the inner loop. So 5 would be the smallest hull size I did. I've done 3s before, but I think that was too small. So I take a 5 and we bend it so that we have that one right up top. Doing similar to what we just did, right? You're going to have this little guy and we're going to twist it 1 180, 2 180. Okay? So 1 180, 2 180. Now here's the trick. I normally just would do it off feel and using my fingertip, but then I was like, that might be hard. You want to make sure that it does bow down. So I did 5 here and 11 for the next one. I actually counted for you guys. I've never counted before, but when I was making that one, I was like, if I'm going to make a video, I should count it. So I'm going to kind of push the wire down again because who's the boss? Now, I'm going to make my loop down here and I'm going to kind of squeeze it. Now, this is a lot of kind of manipulation with it for something kind of so simple, but you get used to it. The reason why I wanted to make sure I had the count here is because I want you to understand that you do not want them to be flat. You want this loop to cup under it. So 11, even 10, you can kind of mess with that. So I did 11, so you can experiment with 5, 11, 16. And then you can kind of even pull that middle one out to make sure it's really kind of sitting there. And then you do, again, 2 180s. Okay. And then I'm going to do 16. And then this tends to give me what I'm looking for here. So now I'm going to bend this one under here. And sorry, I should be showing you guys. So I'm kind of making it again so that they kind of lie on top of each other, like they kind of like make a garden hose pile in the back. So you can see that this one, so it's making this sort of cup. So I go 1, 2 just to make sure it's in there. And then once it's in there, now I want to do my about 1/4 inch ropey. Okay. Now what you'll see here, the reason why I being careful with the bead count is I want like a dome out of it. And I'll actually end up kind of pushing this down so it's kind of more on the bottom. So I'm pushing the beads down from the top, and you can just manipulate it however you want to, and kind of squeezing a little bit, making a little cup out of it. Making a little cup. So I know you can't see what the heck I'm doing right now. I can't see what the heck I'm doing right now. Okay, so it's going to look something like that on the side. You just want it to have some dimension. And see on the inside, it's just kind of like a little, I kind of squished it. Right? You can see it's kind of squished. It's like oval shaped now. It's squished, and then the side is squished. And so make as many of those as you made of your 8 triple, whatever you did for, or just make a bunch. So that's the smallest size, right? So we do the 8s, and then we go up. So it'd be 8, 11, 16. Or just you choose your own levels. You just don't want it, again, to be a flat disc. You're making it so it has dimension. You want to cup it, right? You want to make sure it's a little teeny cup. Okay, so the next one, 5, 11, 16. I think I said 8. 5, 11, 16. The next one we're going to do is 7, 13, 18. So basically we're moving everything up 2. So we're going to do 7. And again, with these, we want odd inner bead centers, so we're not doing crossover. So 7, squish your thumbs together, turn it, pinch on top, put the bottom one with all the beads on top of the other one. At least that's how I do it. You can, if your hands. So again, we're holding it tight. We're doing 1, 2. Okay, so now we're going to do a 13, 7, 13, 18. So 13. And again, you're going to kind of push the wire down a little bit, so just so that you're doing the thing underneath it. Because again, we're making a little dome out of it, a cupped area. But with these bead counts, you're pretty much always going to get that, because it's not going to be enough to be flush with it. But close. We want it to be close, right? That's why I'm giving you the numbers, because we don't want it to be like, you know, a beehive straight up. So 1, 2, and now 18. So 5, 10, 15, 18. Now, and again, we're kind of pulling the wire down a little bit, so it's going underneath it a little bit, but you can shape it afterwards. Just make the loop. That's why it's good to have these numbers. I don't know if it makes it easier or harder for me, because I never had numbers before. I always knew the inner circle, but then I would just do the other ones by doing it off my fingertip. Now you can see that it already is cupping it because of these sizes. So I'm going to do 2 quick twists just to lock it in, and then after that you can kind of loosen your grip and just twist it down about 1/4 inch. Okay. Now, again, we're going to shape them, and I shape them by kind of pushing, because I want the cup to be bigger on the bottom, but that is, you know, shape it however you want to. You are going to squish the sides in a little bit. You want it to be more ovally. Ovally? Is that a word? Ovally? Let's ponder that one. I feel like there's a word that expresses that, but isn't ovally. But then I started thinking Ovaltine, more Ovaltine. That's not right. That's a chocolate malt drink. Okay, so I think you know what I mean. Oval-like. So I know there's a better word for that. Anyhow, back to the matter at hand. So we're doing that. Getting that a little bit shaped, you know, making it shape. Again, who's the boss? You're the boss. Shape the dang thing. You know, shape it like a little teeny cup. There it is on the side. You know, we just want to give it some dimension and a little bit of flair. You know, a little bit of flair on the side there. So that would be the one that goes on the 10 bead inner circle triple crossover. So this would be your medium hole. So small, medium, and last one, what do you think? Well, we just did 7, 13, 18. So now we're going to do 9, 15, 20. Everything goes up by 2. See? Keeping it easy. That's why I love trying to figure these things out, because there's a lot of fun little mathy stuff. Now, so I'm going to do 9. This is the last one we're going to do together, and then we're going to assemble. This is probably like 6 million. Oh, good Lord. It's longer than I expected it to be. Okay, so again, we're going to fold it so that we have our middle one right on top. See, folding, bringing this over, tightening it up. Keep it tight. It's all about that tension. You got to do it. You got to learn how to do that. It's just the bottom line. You have to start working with the tension so that you can keep your stuff. It's not just aesthetics. It's also because you want it to stay kind of tight. So here we go. 9, 15, 20. So 5, 10, 15. We'll do you. Okay. Bend our wire down just a little bit, just so it goes underneath. Wrap around. Just make your loop. You can shape it later. Just make it as tight as possible, though. Again, keeping that tension. Use the wire on itself. See, right now, again, I haven't twisted anything, but look how it's holding. It's holding because the wire is snagging on the bead by the way I'm holding it. Okay, so do a couple of twists, just 2 for that one, and then come around. We're going to do a 20 loop. 5, 10, 15, 20. Hope I don't go out of the screen too much. It's hard to pay attention to that. Okay, so doing it again. So I'm kind of keeping it so that the loop is going under. And right now it looks just like kind of like a pile of not anything good. But once we shape it, it'll have more form. So again, holding it right now, I haven't twisted it. Look how it's locked on itself. Using the wire against itself and the beads. Twisting it a few times, and after that I can just kind of loosen my grip and just finish it up however you want to hold it. Definitely easier than doing a fringe, just spin that. So, and now again, you can see that when you initially do it, it kind of has this sort of lumpy way to it where the bulk is at the top. I want the bulk to be on the bottom, so it kind of cups the bottom. Like, see how I've kind of moved them so that they kind of like cup the bottom. So you're just going to reshape that a little bit. Again, you can kind of push these up. Just do it with your fingertips, squish it together, push this part down, and actually just push it back. Look at that. And then just shape it into that shape. It's wire. You can shape it. Okay, so then we just shape it into that shape so it just has a little bit, you know, more of a kind of uniform shape to it, not just all at the top. Okay, so there are our 3 sizes. Now, last thing we're going to do is quickly do assembly. Holy cow, I'm doing the whole thing in one take. This is crazy. Okay, so with this, I would use 1 strand of, say, I don't know, 16 gauge, 18 gauge. I actually want the branch. So this is, I use this for this one, which is a wire I never use. I probably bought by accident, but now I'm glad I did. It's kind of like a cloth wrapped 16 gauge. The reason why is because I actually want it to have a little more. I don't want to, you can do double. I think I've done it before when I had bigger arrangements. Like you can do a double stem wire to give it more girth, but I don't want it to be that girthy. And plus it's, that kind of makes it look kind of flatter because, you know, because it's 2 against each other. So anyhow, this is this one. And the reason I chose this one is because it already has the wire on top of, I mean, the cloth on top of it. So it's getting thicker. So I start with a quick, whatever your favorite brown is, you know, do your business. So, you know, not all, we've had many discussions, if you've seen other things about the not all floral tapes or stem wires or anything are created equal. So I do a little bit of a wrap from about half an inch, 3/4 of an inch down until it's about halfway up like that. So there's about half of the tape is off. And then I bend that tape down and I bring it back around. Now, you don't have to worry about this one being too perfect because we're going to wrap the whole darn thing all over again. This is just what I call my gripper layer so that it grips on and also gives it a little bit wider of a stem. And so this is just, again, it's just so I can attach my things. So it's going to be completely covered. So you could use actually any color you want to, but it might peek through. So you, at some point, so you probably don't want to do that. So you're going to wrap this whole thing up. This is where I could probably pause the video, right? I feel like I should tell you a funny anecdote. I don't know right now. I'm too tired. The best anecdote I've had so far is about a callus that's the size of an 11 bead. We're not doing that great on my story time. So sometimes I feel like I'm halfway between Julia Childs and Bob Ross, but not like in a good way. That sounds really inflated. But, you know, in terms of my storytelling today, though, not many stories, just trying to get the job done. And trying to find my little pink crafting scissors. There you are. Come back. So I don't even go down all the way down to the bottom. Just chop that through. Okay. So now how you space them is up to you. I start, as you'll notice, with our finished one by spacing them out kind of closer and then kind of going from like a little over half an inch, like 3/4 of an inch, and then, you know, kind of a little bit over an inch. You want to keep them kind of close. I just made one after not making them for a while, a couple of days ago, the first one I made, and I spaced them out too much. I was trying to be like too naturally occurring how they are spaced out, the bigger ones, but those are huge branches. And then you have like 4 that show in your arrangement, 4 like little Pussywillow blobs. So not good. Okay, so what we're gonna do then is we're gonna take out our little babies, our double crossovers. And I'm gonna do the same configuration, though you can do different ones in the same thing. So I'm gonna do 2 of each. Now, I use a 32 gauge wire to wrap these on because I don't want it to show a lot, but I want to use a strong 32 gauge. So that's always a good place to start. And of course, word my strong 30. Come back, come back. Oh, you are not my, there you are. Okay. If you saw this work table, I'm doing like 8 simultaneous projects. And then of course the hydrangea madness. It is. I think pretty soon I'm not going to have any room on this table. So, okay. So now let's take out our 2 baby ones. And again, you can choose whatever configuration you want. So I'm going to put whatever's one, the smallest one at the very tip. See how it's like just right at the top. So it's right there. And I'm going to take my wire. And sometimes this can be a little bit messy because it's such a long stem and you're going to be attaching all the way down. You might just want to cut wire off. You know, it does lend to some wasting, but it does cut down the frustration factor. So I'm going to wrap it pretty securely on there. So I'm going to wrap pretty tight right at the top. Get that guy on there. Make sure it's nice and flush on there. And then I'm going to take this one. And now after the top one, we're going to start bending them. Now this, okay, get ready for picky me detail. You do not have to pay attention to it. But if you'll notice in all of these, because of the way you wrap them, you almost always have a side that comes down longer than the other side, right? So like it almost looks like there's kind of, like it's on one side, it's kind of bent up a little bit. You can see that. So I tend to bend, so that little bent up side is exposed here, because I'm going to stick it right to the side. Right to the side, about 1/2 inch down, whatever, you know, do it by eye, it's nature. And so I want to make sure, and I am trying to get it so that this is full facing, because basically I'm going to do 2 sides, right? So I'm not going to go, you can wrap it around, but I go side to side to side to side. Okay, so then you want to wrap down, and then I get ready for the next one, and this is a pretty fast assembly. So here's my 8 one. And again, I can see it kind of naturally bends that way. And if it doesn't have that, then don't worry about it. So I'm going to bend it. Now, right now, I'm kind of almost doing a 90-degree bend because I need to tape this thing. And so I need it. I'm not going to leave it like that. But I need for the taping, for the floral tape. Now, don't get too hung up on it being straight across, because you can bend it around even after you get it wired on. So I'm going to wire that on. All right. Let's try to do this kind of fast. Let's see. What are we doing? Oh, what are we showing? This is... Okay, so we go down about that far. And again, I'm going to bend this one right about there. What time is it? Almost 1. Shoot. We got to get rolling. Okay. So we got that one. You notice how I'm kind of slightly going a little bit longer each time. But even if you don't, you can even go a little bit shorter. It's nature. You know, it doesn't always, can be exact, but it can also not be. Let's put it that way. Is that vague enough for you? Again, see, they're going pretty straight, but you can always flatten them later, so don't worry too much. Now, that's the end of me doing, and I always twist a little bit further down than I'm going to do, because I can go back up. Now, the next stage would be the ones we're actually going to put hulls on, right? Or sheaths, or whatever you want to call them. And so let's start with our 8 bead, and then here's our 10 bead, and then our biggest one. Okay, so I'm going to do 3 of the 8s again. Actually, for the interest of time, I'm going to do 2 of them. Wow, let's do 3. I almost feel like I should pause it, but then at that point now it's going to make it harder to... Okay, so here's how I do it. Now you can wire them onto your sheath, but you don't have to. So bend the sheath down so the cup is exposed up just a little bit, and then just rest this guy right in there. Just get him right on in there. Little cup right there, you go. Right on in there, and then get their wires together. I mean, you could, but you don't really need to, and it's going to make more bulk on it. So and you can pinch them, hold them together just like that. And then you want to put them right where you want them. Bend this down a little bit so it's, you know, get ready to go against the wire, the stem wire. So I'm going to hold it right there. Make sure you're pushing it into the cup, into the sheath there. Get it as far in as you can. And, of course, when I'm trying to do it on camera, it's like a little more awkward. Okay, I want you to be up more. There you go. Get the first one wrapped in there. Okay, now I'm going to pull it down. Now that it's kind of anchored on, I can mess with it a little bit. I'll even go sometimes over and then come back down up top of it to kind of make sure that I'm really sealing it in there. So I'm wrapping it around, and then I'll come up here. You don't have to do this, but it does make it more stable. Down up top, and then wrap around again. Okay, so now... Of course, the time I'm trying to worry about time, I get this tangled. There we go. Thank you. Okay, so we wrap around again, and off we go. We're wrapping. I do kind of a tight wrap. What I mean by that is I'm doing it pretty close because I'm trying to keep all of the little like working wires from the little buds I'm trying to keep them kind of nice and flat against the stem wire. Okay, so again, putting it right in that cup, squishing it right in there, just really getting it in there, bending it down, going straight across, a little bit further away than we were before, but not much. Okay, now if my weird little hands can do it, and even if you have weird hands too, you can do it. Trust me, my hands are super weird. Okay, so again, I come up over top, over down, and like over the top, just to kind of really anchor it in there. Okay, now back down we go. I'm gonna get to the point where it's gonna be real annoying to have my wrapping wire on a reel still. Okay, so that was the one more. I feel like I should pause this, but then it's going to take forever to compile, or to combine. Okay, let's put this back on here. Again, I'm going a little bit further down. I think I will pause this because I think you get the gist, and I really don't want you guys to have to watch this all. Let's see. I wish we could be having a conversation at the same time, because I was going to say, what have y'all been making? I've been making, what I say? You heard it, hydrangeas. Now, I will share those later. I didn't write down a pattern, even a design count for those. There's nothing in my notebook. I just started making them because they're so simple. But dang, the assembly. What a pain in the neck. I feel like I should probably look at a pattern on those. Like, maybe I'm just doing it the hardest way possible. But I feel like the way I'm doing it makes some kind of sense. So, okay, so now our next size up would be this guy, right? Hope I didn't already, yeah, there we go. Just take 2 of those out right now, and I'm going to take my mediums right here. And again, same thing, just resting it right on in there. You can fast forward, by the way. Let me offer that to y'all in case I'm going to offer it to you in a way, say, don't feel guilty. Fast forward if you don't want to see me do this. It's just if I cut it, I'm going to have to put 2 pieces of video together, and that always takes forever. It doesn't seem to work very well. And right now I was like, oh, I'm just making it directly. But then it's taking longer with no editing. Okay, so bear with me. Now, again, because I'm worried about time, that's when you start making dumb mistakes like snagging your wire. In fact, let's just cut this thing. I'm just going to cut it down here so it's just boom. You go away. That way I'll have a little bit more flexibility with things. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to cut out that middle bit. I feel bad making y'all watch it. Okay, pull that over to the top, and we wrap. And we wrap. Let's go fast, fast, fast. Again, it's kind of a tight wrap in terms of, like, each row is pretty much close to the next. Okay, but look how fast we're going. Okay, one more hole with this guy, sticking you in there. Getting it all squished right in there. I mean, I think at the old days, too, I would even, like, kind of wrap them and it keeps them tight. That's an interesting idea. You could kind of, instead of wrapping with wire, you could just cross them with each other. Duh. See, you figure out things. I feel like I've done that before. That keeps them nice and... Look at that. See? This is why I like making things. Even after making them a bunch, I'm like, huh, that works. Now I don't have to hold it so tight. I bet some of you were out there watching it going, why doesn't she just twist the wires together? Wouldn't that be so much easier? The answer is yes. It would be so much easier. Oh my gosh, it's so much easier. I mean, it's just as stable, I imagine, but, you know, it's so much easier to not have to pinch them and hold them at the same time. Okay, so we're almost there. We only have 2 more of our large guys. Come on out. Large holes, come on out. Okay. Let's try a new trick. I'm going to put it right down exactly where I need it to be. Squish it on in there. My hands, of course, I'm worried about time, because I feel like I'm taking too long. Squish it right as tight as you can get them so that the bottoms pinch them up. And then twist them. Oh my gosh, that's so much easier. And it doesn't even make it much. The reason I didn't want to do it with wire, I was going to wire them together. See, that's what's funny. Sometimes I'm like, maybe I should read a pattern or two. I bet somebody wrote about that. But then I don't see those things. Because probably other people just do them. Okay, now I don't have to worry about holding them and pinching them together. See, we figured that out together. I feel like we did because you guys are here with me in spirit. So thank you for making me think about it. If I hadn't worried about taking too much time for you guys and making it annoying, I wouldn't have thought of that. Okay, so I think that was teamwork. Ow. That's me hitting my elbow on my pseudo tripod scenario. Okay, last one. Look at that. Now, because then we can talk about how we wrap them. So again, I'm getting that right in there, and then I'm twisting it, locking it in, nice and tight. See, there's just things you should have. Oh my gosh! Again, I did this thing I made. Well, I'll show you guys at some point. I made so many hydrangea things, and I painted them, and I was getting all into them. And then I was having this weird time with assembly, and I realized, oh, why don't I just do this thing first before I do the next thing, as opposed to doing it after? And then, which was to put in the center bead. Yeah, made it a lot easier. While that's exciting when that happens, it also makes you kind of go like, why didn't I figure this out sooner? Wouldn't everything be so much simpler? Now, since I cut this off a little bit short, I'm going to really make sure it's like down to the inch of the amount of wire I need. Wrap wire. Okay, now here is something that I'm going to show you next. Now, a lot of times when you see Pussywillow in nature, it could be kind of straight looking. The problem, at least for me, that I find with straight wires on anything, even on flowers or whatever, is even if if the stems are super straight in nature, when it's wire and artificial flowers, whether it's, however it's made, silk or beads or whatever, it makes them, to me, look more artificial, even if in real life they would be that straight. So I always give them a little bit of a bend. Now, the trick is when there is bend, most often with the structure of plants, when there are bends in nature, they happen, it's not all the time, but it does make it look better, where you'll bend out here, let me show you what I mean on this first. Notice how each time that I'm bending them, there's a big larger bend, and that's because I'm going to want kind of a shape to it. But then individually, each of these little zigzag bends, notice how the bud is on the outside of the zigzag, right? So you're stretching your bud out on the outside. So that's the general kind of format. Now, I do this before, at least lightly before, because it's hard for me to do by my hands, and I don't want to bruise or mess up the floral tape. So I will take some pliers, and I'll do it beforehand. And I'll put a little bend so that every time you see a bud, you're bending it out from that bud. Now, you can make it less extreme later. But right now I'm just making it like a zigzag all the way down. And again, notice where I'm putting the bend, where the zigzag part is on the outside, so that the bud is on the outside of it. So I end up with something that looks like that. Again, you can lessen it later. Now, let's go back to our favorite brown tape. Now you really want to use your favorite brown tape. And make sure you do the stretch to activate your wax and to get it all good, as nice as possible. Now, here's the trick with this. This is our last thing we're going to do together. Holy cannoli. So this is 1/2 inch, right? So if you did a 1/2 inch, it should go right there. Now, I'm going to go right up under the one and fit perfectly. And I'm going to do one more wrap and get right up under that top bud. And then I'm going to do one, and here's where I'm going to show you where I get a little picky. I'm going to tuck right in there. I'm going to tuck that right in there. Now, if you have goodish floral tape, almost any floral tape, to be honest, I mean, I know there's some bad ones there. If you get, wrinkles in it, that's okay. Sometimes the wrinkles make it stronger. So you're the boss of the floral tape. Less so, though. Floral tape's a little pickier. So I'm trying to scooch it. See how I'm scooching the edge under, because I don't want any exposed wire as much as possible. And so then I'm just lightly doing a kind of a, and I do want a little more bulk in it. So it's okay to do a very kind of, you know, very tight wrap, let's put it that way, in more ways than one. So again, right now, all of my buds are like 90 degrees sticking out. I'm not going to leave it like that. That's just so I can get my floral tape right in there, right under that thing. Now I'm coming up here and I know it's bending a little bit. That's okay. I'm getting right up under there and I'm pushing it up under there. And then I'm pulling it around again. And with this one, actually, because it is supposed to be twiggy, so it's okay if it gets a little rivuletty, but it's pretty smooth. So I get down to the top, and again, I'm going to tuck right in there, tuck in there, get in there. Now, to get around the other side, you are going to want to, like if you're like this, the natural, because I am doing a pretty tight, and when I say tight, I don't mean how tight I'm wrapping it. I mean that the rows are really close to each other. So it's almost like I'm going perpendicular with my pull, instead of like a long, like barber pull that would be, you know, because I want it to be thicker. But right now you can see that this would hit right on top of that. So make sure you got all the way down in there. If you got all the way down in there on the top, then now you can kind of let it bend and like push it down and let it wrinkle a little bit and squish it up under there. Squish it up under and bring it around. Squish it up under, bring it around, right? Now, when I get down to the ones with sheaths, I even do a little extra step. You do not have to do this, but it does help with stability, and it makes it kind of look kind of cool. Okay, so once we get really close down in here, right, see I'm right down there, I'm going to go under here, pushing it up, and then I'm going to come back up the top, over the top, and push it back down in again, and then wrap it around. Now, if you have a sound floral tape, even if it makes rivulets, like little, you know, little wrinkles, you can smooth them with your fingernail or any, well, I'll show you afterwards because I do it all at once. Okay, but you can see it looks pretty darn smooth, even though I did that and it looked kind of crinkly when I was doing it. But look how smooth it looks now. So it's hard to do that with a drier tape, but it's possible. So now I want to get right down again, right in there, right into that dip. Come around, wrap up and push it up under there, come back up around, and it's okay if it gets wrinkly like that. That's okay. In fact, it makes it stronger. Pulling it here, this fortifies that joint. Now, and then back under, and then we keep going down. So that was all I was trying to show you with that one. And make sure you're still stretched out. Got your tape stretched out. Got your nose itching. Sometimes it feels like you can't let go of these things. They're just going to spring apart, right? Like, no, I can't stop. Okay. So, again, I'm getting right down up top. Right? Pulling it down. And then under. And then over. And again, we kind of okay if it crinkles, because you can soften that down later. And then back on top, even with just a fingernail. Look right there, it just flattens it right out. Okay, so now we're pulling down. Almost there. I can't believe I'm doing this. This is the only time I've ever made a video where I'm actually doing all of it with you. Which again, fast forward if you want to. Now, let's see what we got going on here. So we're pretty darn close. You can always just make it. Sometimes I purposely like to double tape up and make it stronger, especially if I'm like under, like right under the flower, the base of a flower, putting petals on. I will often do the first wraps around the bottom of a flower with deliberately like crinkled up like tape like this, so that it really extra fortifies it. You know, I bend it in half. So we're getting there. We're almost there. We did this together. This is our Pussywillow. We can claim that. So again, if you get a little bit of a roughness, you can just go back later. Okay, we're getting way deep into that guy. Almost there. Under. And then over. And we're so close. You guys have made it. Almost. Now, let's see what we got going on here. Okay, we're twisting. And off we go to the wild blue yonder. Okay. I feel like I have to do something to entertain you during this. So, or you just have it be kind of meditative. If you need to go to sleep, if you're having insomnia problems, put on this video. Though I don't really speak very calmingly, I don't know. I don't think so. I watched this documentary on Bob Ross, and he deliberately spoke the way he spoke to like kind of be very like calming to people, because he apparently did not speak that way in real life, which is good, because that would be kind of weird. But I don't really have that voice. It's funny because they were talking about his like mentor was this other guy, other kind of painter on TV before him, who had a very abrasive tone. So I think he went quite the opposite. It's kind of funny. I don't even want to imitate. I don't know how I would. But anyhow, so if you are getting tired, I don't know if this will help you with your insomnia. I don't know if my voice is lulling enough. However, you could turn off that and just watch me spin this thing around. I'm falling asleep. Okay. So, again, now, like, just, you know, have the cool thing about this little thing. And if you did, if you did the succulent bead along a few months ago, I think I already said this, but I'm not sure, then it's like the same method that they used for the little thing. I mean, these are not these have been around forever, these little triple, double crossover loops things. But what's fun with them is just, they are just a handy trick to have in your, like, you know, bag of tricks, basically. Your bag of tricks to fill up something and make it look cute. All of a sudden, you know, you got this nice thing. So I go all the way to the bottom now with this. So we're going to go all the way. Let me just take that off screen because I can do it faster. I think you can envision what all the way to the bottom looks like without actually having to see it. Right? So go all the way to the bottom with our tape. I might not use this whole bottom. That's fine. But, and I always, with one like this, a single one, so the way I do it, I spin around the bottom. Like, see how the bottom ends here? Because if you cut it like that, well, first of all, I cut this off so I don't have some random things sticking out there. So if you cut this right there, it kind of seals it on itself if it's just a single thing and it's closed. So then it stays closed easier. So now, okay, here's our final fix-up. And then we are done. You guys made it, if you did. Okay, so here's our final fix-up with this thing. First thing I do is I push the buds back up. All right, push them up so that they're pretty much just looking almost as straight up as you can next to them. So they're not sticking out at 90-degree angles, except for the top one. So then I push your buds back up. And now, depending on where you're going to put it, which way did... It doesn't really matter, right? So I like to have a little curvature on it, like a whole arc. So then you can just gently arc the whole thing. And so now it would be ready. You can arc it a lot, you know, with the main thing here. And then you want to kind of pull this one down. So now it could, you know, it could be in an arrangement in a big arc. You can make it totally, you can make it straighter. You can even straighten out some of the zigzagginess too. I just put that in as an initial thing just to get it settled. This one's probably going to be a slight arc, right? And then you have the coming on the bottom. And sometimes, you know, it's nice to have different degrees of arching so that it doesn't look all kind of planned and stuff. You know, and now I'm going to stick these. So that's a little more arched than I wanted for this particular thing. I'm going to stick these together. And they're going to be in my pink chrysanthemum bowl. Come on up here. This thing weighs a ton. It's totally not centered yet. And we're going to, and I know you're looking down on it, so it's kind of hard to see. So it's going to be with these. Again, not high tech. Sticking out some way. I'll take a final picture. But it's a lot of things sticking up. But again, it's not just about the Pussywillow. It's about the ability to have sort of berries and fun little twiggy branches. And you can just stick in a little bit of color with them, you know. I do Christmas arrangements with these all the time with just bright red, color-lined, shiny, color-lined little berries. And in fact, that's what these were. These were bright fire engine red, but I didn't want them for this one. This is like I said, it's a kind of a reject experiment one that I just all put together. But I did take a little bit of brown alcohol ink and some other colors, and I burnished it basically. So these used to be bright, bright red, like literally like fire engine red. But you can make those little berries. See, you just same thing. It's a double crossover loop, but it's just two little teeny weeny beads in the middle and then a crossover loop. So you have so many options. Then I did the same thing, and I didn't do any sheaths on these because these are berries. So as far as I know, wouldn't have those. So you can do them with or without the sheaths, but they're just so handy to have that little ability to just bring those out at any time, make whatever colors, paint them if you want to, just do any colors with them, and just have this kind of cute little polka dot sprigs sticking out of your arrangement. It's pretty cool, and to be honest, you could straighten them out and just put a bunch of them in, an old vintage bud vase or something. Not even vintage. Go to IKEA and get one of those. They have so many cool glass vase, kind of modern looking ones, and just put a bunch of these all together, right? That'd be cool. This is a bunch of Pussywillow ones sticking out. Anyhow, so those are our Pussywillow branches, and I think they're pretty easy once you get used to them. I would put them at beginner level. You do have to be a little careful with the way you kind of make sure things stay together, but otherwise, they're pretty darn straightforward. So have fun with them. Show me if you make them. Send me some pictures. Put them on the Facebook group. I know there's tons of Pussywillow out there. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. This is just the colors, the counts and the shapes that I like and the way I like to put them together. Oh, one last thing I was going to say. If you do ever want to sort of do something to kind of keep your, if your floral shape gets too kind of, I was having such a good ending, and now all of a sudden I'm like trying to add this one at the end. If it ever does get too wrinkly, you can take something like just a flat metal thing, just make sure it's flat and kind of slightly curved. One of those bead scoopers, whatever, one of those, and you can kind of just rub on it a little bit, and it'll take away a lot of the wrinkles. And it also makes it look like there's no, depending on how good your tape though is, and how good doesn't have anything to do with how expensive it was. It's just, how dry it is. And so right now, so that takes away a bunch of the thing, and it makes it all kind of shiny and flat looking, like you don't even see where the seams are between the rows. Just gentle though, don't hammer it in there. But that's one way to kind of go back in and sort of take care of anything if you want to kind of, but I think with these, it's almost like the kind of wrinkling is kind of cool because you want it to look like twiggy, branchy, naturey. So there you go. Off we go. I hope that all worked. And I think that's it. I think I'm going to do some poppies next time. That'll be a lot more involved. Definitely won't make you wait through the whole thing of those. But that was it from beginning to end. So with a lot of talking. So you can get one of these done in under an hour probably. Because you won't have to talk to someone about it during it. And you might be more organized than I am. So otherwise, I will see you all soon. And with some poppy stuff, and give these a try. Try them in different colors. What the heck? Let's go crazy with them. Why do they have to all be like normal colors, right? Whatever. Do some blue ones. I don't know. That'd be weird. But, have fun with it. And anyhow, there you go. Pussywillows. And berries. Etc. See y'all later.